Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Into the Storm. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors, VIP Mortgage, Bison Ventures, Informed Mortgage Lending. I always like to throw that part in there. And our newest sponsor is Muscular Moving Men. So that's a big shout out to those guys. If you ever need a good move, we'll mention them later on.
They're the best.
If you do follow us, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the social media, what are they called?
Platforms.
Social media platforms, as Into the Storm. And when you have an episode that you like, please share with your friends. So we have a special guest today. He is an old friend-ish guy of our family and, my sister mostly. We have John Angelo here from North&Co, and also our third Cactus High School graduate. What's up?
That's
Cactus
so cool.
High School.
That's it. Go Cobras.
Right?
Woo! People don't even know that what Cactus High School is, in like
We're going to put it on the map.
some of these, in some of our friend groups, so to speak.
Really?
Well, you mentioned, the West Valley. People don't know. We're mostly working in the East Valley.
That's true.
Mostly working in Central Phoenix to Arcadia. They're like Chaparral, Saguaro. Then the East Valley is very popular nowadays, too, by the way. Fun
and
facts.
I'm clueless.
I actually just had, that's my sister, by the way. That's Trisha Madrid talking over there. She's in camera now. And we got Trey over here working as our podcast engineer. So, just in case people, they talk. Trey usually doesn't. But so, the other day, a friend of ours went skiing, and he has a team out in the East Valley and just moved into Norterra because that's where his in-laws are at, right?
Got it.
So, we can go pick him up. And he's just like, man, this place is sleepy. And I was like, dude, you came from Gilbert.
Yeah.
He goes, Gilbert is
hopping
nuts compared to Norterra. That hurt my heart a little bit.
Gilbert's pretty cool.
Because I'm always trying to fight that East
Yeah.
Valley, West Valley thing. And he's like, dude, sorry, man. It is not the same. And I'm not from either one. I'm from Montana.
Yeah.
He goes, but it's way more fun out in the East Valley. But, whatever. I still like Norterra. So shout out to Norterra and Sonoran Foothills.
For sure. Yeah.
So, like I said, John went to the same high school as us. Grew up in the Northwest Valley, which what we consider the Northwest Valley now. Now it's kind of like inland a little bit.
It's like Central Phoenix,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Right.
Jeez.
Right. So did you guys go to elementary school there too, or did you guys move from another state into Arizona?
Well, we moved here in 1977, so I was 9. We went to Horizon Grade School, which would have fed into Apollo High School for 2 years, and then moved up to 51st Avenue Cactus, and then went to Desert Palms, which then went into Cactus. So before, Ironwood or Centennial or anything else, it was just it was Peoria High School and Cactus High School. That was the only two in the Peoria district.
Right.
So
Was Jack Erb the principal when you were there?
at Desert Palms.
Desert Palms.
No, it was Ray Metakawa.
Oh, love Ray.
Yeah.
Oh, he was so
Jack
cool.
Erb was the PE teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, the PE.
Yeah.
Oh, he was. Yeah, he became the principal. Like I
Later
think,
on.
Yeah. Like just a couple years later.
Okay.
We're losing people, I think, now.
Are we
Just kidding.
too generic?
No. So after you left Cactus, you went to ASU. So
I went to USC my freshman year.
did you?
Yes.
Okay. Back up then.
Back up.
What was John Angelo like in high school?
I didn't put
Do we have
that
to
in
go
the
that
notes.
far back?
I didn't put that in the notes.
Well, heck, I mean.
I don't know if
you
we
were
covered
part
that
of-
ground.
I knew that, but I didn't
Yeah.
put it in the notes.
It's interesting because there is a component of that later on in, my life that things kind of, you got to deal with things or they just show up again. And sometimes they're worse the second time around. So after my freshman year at USC, I actually went back my sophomore year. And then after the Whittier earthquake, I was like, okay, I think I've had enough of LA. Mm-hmm. And really, I was homesick. I was like, man, this just isn't for me. Came back, went to ASU, right? But that will show up again later on in this conversation, I'm sure. But
So, well, let's just lead into what I see on the notes. But I already knew that you did this. You went to Thunderbird International School of Management, which is back. I don't know if it is anymore because it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Right. But that was a big deal back then because
Huge.
people were coming from all over the world to go to school there.
Yeah.
So education was obviously a huge part of your life. Did you go after graduation from ASU? Did you go right into that, or did you go work first?
So my undergrad degree was in broadcasting, station operations, and management. So I had worked as an intern at Y95 Radio, and then I only had 2 classes the end of my senior year. I was actually working full time at Y95 in the selling ad time, airspace, and still going to ASU. So I didn't even go to graduation. I did not go to my college graduation. I was working that day, right? So I was like, whatever. It's just and
It's not that big of a deal.
Wasn't that big of a deal, right? All these kids. I was like, no. So so
Your
I did
parents
that.
didn't
No, my
care?
parents. You know what? It's funny. Not really. It's probably like, we don't have to take a trip down there and find a
'Cause
parking
it was
spot.
far back then.
Yeah, right? We didn't have freeways back
Dirt
then.
roads.
Your mom's a teacher, right? Wasn't she a teacher?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom was really happy that I went to USC. She didn't want me to go. She used to always say, well, Arizona State, it's just a diploma mill. My dad was like, it doesn't matter where you go to school. There was a little, I don't know about friction, but they just each had their own ideas of what you could be regardless of where you went to school.
Well, what took you to USC then? I mean, was it that prestigious of a school back then as it is now? It's hard to get into.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been a great school.
The 1984 Olympics were in LA.
Yeah.
So we went. And
your hands, buddy.
I know it's like, so we went, and I was like, wow. We stayed. The Olympic
Bowl.
Village was there, Coliseum and all that. And I was like, this is really cool. So we were like touring the campus when I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, I wonder, I'd like to come here. That would be cool, right? So, you do your application or whatever, got accepted, and it was a great, a great experience.
Yeah.
Right. It's again, I ended up going and finishing an issue, going and working in radio, and I did that for a couple of years. And then my uncle had a production company here that they would do big themed events. And so I worked there. I was kind of like his COO-ish person for 3 or 4 years, and had a great time and
So like, what would be a themed?
so he opened up Bank One Ballpark.
Oh, okay.
He did everything for the Fiesta Bowl. He opened up the Cardinal Stadium. In 1989, he won the national award for the largest theme party in America.
Wow.
We went down to New Orleans for a month. He recreated the French Quarter inside the Superdome.
Oh, wow.
For all the Honda. It was the Honda Acura dealerships presidential thing or whatever. 1,000 people, BB King, Brian Adams. I mean, it was whatever. So he won that year, Special Events Magazine so we did those kind of things.
Yeah.
And they were a blast, and traveled all over the place and met tons of people, and it was great. But at that point, I was like, you know what? This is not going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Let's go. And that's when I went and, decided, hey, I'm going to start pursuing, I want to go to Thunderbird.
Yeah.
So I actually went and lived in Mexico City with Mike Isles, who we've had on, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've got some.
Okay. This makes more sense because of the conversation outside. Now I know.
Yeah.
That's why you're so close.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know some
So
good
with
stuff.
Chuck Levinus.
Right.
With Chuck Levinus. Went there, and then we're down there for a couple months, came back, went to Guatemala for a while, hung out there because I just needed to get my Spanish better. And then, then went back to Thunderbird, did that. And then it was kind of like, I really didn't want to get back into kind of corporate America again. So that's when I went into the Peace Corps.
Yeah.
That is what tied back to USC. I had to get out. I had to get away, right? I had to prove to myself that I could live away on my own.
Yeah.
In another place, without any other resources, that I could actually say, okay, I did this not by myself, but I did it without that, without having all that support.
So talk to us about the decision that the Peace Corps was going to be like the avenue that you went in order to find that.
Well, when I had traveled before in Guatemala, we'd met some Peace Corps volunteers that I was like, this is really great. Like I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know that much about it. And hanging out with those guys, I was like, this is really cool. So that was like a little seed that got planted, and then when I finished with Thunderbird, I was like, I really haven't had some of the overseas experience. I mean, as you can call it, I was in Nicaragua in Central America, that so many of my counterparts had. And I felt like, if I was going to do the degree justice, I needed to spend some time outside the U.S. And I thought, you know what? This is this little thing that's kind of been in me that it's kind of challenged me. So let's do this. And I just said, there's no plan B. I'm just going to go down there. I'm going to stay. So I was down there for, 2 years and 2 months. And
what was the coolest thing you did while you were in it?
You have a primary job and a secondary job. My primary job was really cool, but my secondary job was something that was completely out of my knowledge base. Mm-hmm. So I worked with women that made black ceramic pottery. And Nicaragua was just kind of coming back into its own after the revolution and all the stuff that had happened down there. So we took these pots and we ended up selling them in. So I lived in Jinotega, which would be like a Flagstaff from Phoenix, right? Mm-hmm. So we'd go back into Managua and we started selling these pots, and they became very popular. And so these women started making a lot of money. Wow. And so one of the coolest things that I ever did was, and I had a lot of help doing this. We took about a dozen of those women and we took them down to Managua all together, put them up in a hotel. We did the show. We did all this stuff. None of them had ever seen the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, wow.
So we said, we're going to take you guys to the biggest thing that's on this planet. You're going to put your feet in the water and you're going to say that you're in the Pacific Ocean. I've got a picture of it. It's like, that's just like one of the coolest things when you can give somebody that. That sticks out in my mind as like one of the coolest things. What
was their like impression of the whole thing? Like, was it like crying and was it like just like emotional or what?
Some of it was, everybody kind of has a different thing, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of them were scared to even put their feet in the water. Wow. And I can understand, right? Yeah. Like you've never been there, they were big, they didn't swim, they're scared. We're like, hey, nothing's going to happen. We're here, whatever. And so they calmed down and did it. Then they started having fun and flicking the water on each other. It was a blast,
Are you getting chills? Because I could.
Yeah, I am. It's a good. It was a great experience. Dude, it was fantastic.
I'm so glad I asked that question.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after that, were you just at a point where you're like, all right, I'm done. I'm ready to come back and try to figure out what I want to do or what?
Yeah, I mean,
or is it like a time where they're like, all right, you did 2 years, now you're done?
So in the midst of all of that, actually towards the end of my Thunderbird time, and then obviously I was in the Peace Corps, my dad contracted cancer. While I was in the Peace Corps, my uncle, who I had worked with, his brother, also got cancer. So for me, there were some of our folks that were, I could have stayed down there longer. It was a great experience. The people are just absolutely wonderful. Wonderful. But I was like, I gotta get back. Like this time clock is ticking. My dad really was not doing well. So I'm like, I gotta get back. At some point, maybe I'll come back to Nicaragua and take up what I'd done, but I didn't. And so I came back and then, it wasn't I came back in September of 98. By that May, my uncle had died. He still had his business and, I was the executor of the estate. So I had to wind all of that down. And I mean, it was a lot of work. It took me about a year to get that through, more than a year, almost 2 years to get that whole thing done. And then in the meantime, my dad died. So it was like, okay, I'm clearly here. But I told Trish this yesterday, there was a point kind of in between all of that where a friend of ours said, hey, we're opening up she worked for Insight Computers. She said, hey, we're going to open up a branch in Barcelona. And I'm like, I'm going to interview for that job. Right? That's up my alley. Right? My uncle was, whatever, said, okay, I'm going to do this and go down for the interview. And I got there and the guy that was supposed to interview me, they told me, he's like, oh man, his son like broke his arm or something. Like he had to just leave like 10 minutes ago. But I was already down there. So they kind of gave me a tour. And then that
was out in Tempe.
That was out in Tempe, yeah. I met this woman's counterpart. They basically ran the executive office for Tim and Eric and Stan, all the whole executive team. And she's like, oh, she'll finish the rest of the tour or whatever. So, she's taking me through the place, and I'm kind of looking her up and down. I'm like, I like this gal. This gal's kind of, I loved her little groove or whatever. Right. And that was on a Wednesday. I took her out on Friday, and that's it. Married her a year later. I mean, like it was the year and two later. Right, that was it, baby. Like it was like whatever. They never opened up the thing in Barcelona. So that was a good interview. It was a good ROI on that day.
Did you take a job with Insight at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, not at all. Ended up took a job with 3M. And I worked out of the industrial division. They're based out of Austin, Texas, not back in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And did that for 2 years maybe. And they flew everybody to Austin and fired us all.
Really?
Yeah. Honestly, God, fired us all. The whole entire division of what we did, ELPD stuff. And actually, when you looked at the business model and how they ran things, it was really a good move. They should have done what they did. I wasn't upset with them at all. And they gave us a severance, and that was it. So I told Trish, I said, when I met Amy, I had no job. And when we got married, I had no job. So I really know that she loved me. She really did.
So she had a pretty good job.
She had a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Right?
Yeah. Right.
So then, kind of, I wanted to do something a little bit more blue collar. The 3M job was a little bit, not as much. So got a job, knew tons of people at American Express. Got a job at American Express. This was in April of 2001. And almost got laid off again after 9/11.
Do you remember where you were at 9/11 when you heard?
Yeah, I was at home. And crazily enough, so Amy's birthday is August 11th. I had American Express training in New York City August 11th. And I asked my boss, I said, hey, it's Amy's birthday. Do you mind if I'll pay for the ticket, fly her out, and we just want to hang in New York after we're done with training? He's like, absolutely, not a problem, whatever. So we were literally at World Trade, staying at Marriott World Trade 1 month to the day before that happened on August 11th. Wow. So it's kind of like, it's kind of eerie, right? Like that close to that, right?
Yeah.
But no, I was, we've talked about, I'm a early riser. I got up that day. I was going to go work out with a buddy of mine. And I never, I don't, this is how weird life is. I never turn on the TV, none of that ever before I go to work out. I've got my little routine, go to work out. That day, for whatever it was, I decided I'm just going to turn on the TV. I had a couple extra minutes, whatever. And all of a sudden, that was all unfolding right there. I was just standing in my house, watching it happen, right? And it was, I was calling my buddy. I'm like, dude, whatever. Let's, are we gonna go work out? He's like, what do you mean? Why not? I said, did you turn on the TV? And so we ended up not doing it, and that was a crazy day.
That's nice.
Ryan remembers that day real well.
What were you doing?
So I was working for Solomon Smith Barney at the time. So I was in the office on 24th Street in Camelback. Okay. And I had to get there before everybody else did because I worked directly for this woman who all her clients were in New York. So she wanted me there early. This time you printed out all the Bloomberg reports and you highlighted all the news and yada, yada, yada. So I was like literally just like watching, and my ex-wife, she was pregnant with our son, who's now 21. And he was born on the 30th, so she was in their 9th, in the 8th month, whatever. So I was just sitting there watching it going, what the hell is happening? And nobody else around me to say anything to. I was I tried to call home. Of course, it's 4:30 in the morning. Right? Yeah, it was a trip, but yeah. So anyways, you were at American Express.
So anyways, the only reason I didn't get laid off was that I was the lowest on the totem pole. Like I had the lowest salary, and they're like, hey, we'll fire that guy and we'll give John twice the territory and, whatever. And that's what happened. I took over Arizona. So I managed all of our largest merchant accounts that weren't like national or international accounts. So like all the sports teams here, it was awesome. All the big independent restaurateurs here, phenomenal. Just a lot of big businesses and a lot of B2B stuff that you wouldn't even feel like, I don't know what that is, but they did tons of American Express charge volume. So they accepted the card. So we managed their accounts and helped them streamline stuff and save money in different areas. And we had certain products and services for them that other merchants didn't have. So it was a phenomenal job. My boss, I had a boss that was out of Denver, another one that was out of LA. But at that point, we decided, you know what? This is kind of too close for comfort, right? Are we going to spend the rest of our lives kind of at the whim of, hey, you're laying off, you're doing this or that? So we said, what do we know? like, what could we get into right now that we actually have some knowledge of? And it was real estate. My parents had always had, they did seller carrybacks. They did their own fix and flips. They did rentals, all that stuff. So I grew up, I was a kid, cleaning the yard, painting the fence, all that stuff. So, and Amy, similarly, her parents had a phenomenal business in Montana, and she was always around, commercial stuff, and they had land and different things like that, and houses. So that was just something that naturally we knew about because we had experience in it. And so we're like, okay, well, we didn't have kids at the time. We're like, well, what do you want to do? We could go anywhere and do real estate. And we were kind of looking around like, this is probably one of the best places to do it. So challenged ourselves. She went and she got her license first. Then I got mine. She ended up leaving Insight first. And then maybe about a year or so later, I left Amex and, basically went to work for her. She'd already been working already, and had done really, really well. And so
what part of town was she focusing on, or was just anywhere?
So it was interesting. We started out because we knew this, working the investment property scenarios, right? Okay. So taking opportunities out to people that we knew. And one of my best buddy from who lived in California, said, "Hey, I've got extra money. I want to buy a property. I have clients that want to buy properties." So we just started loading up on buying rental properties. And at the time, I managed them. So that was, we got to the point then where we had so many. I was like, basically, we're like, okay, what are we going to do? Am I going to turn into a property manager? Or do we want to find places for all these properties, including the ones that we had,
right?
And then just get back into traditional real estate, and that's what we did. So we helped all those clients find a property manager, about two different ones, and then kind of pushed them out there. And then by then we were rolling. Then the market was like 2004 and 5. I mean, it was just going crazy.
And then 2008 happened.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
It didn't even take that long for us. Like it happened before. I mean, by 2007, we knew this was bad. That was even before, things had started to melt down everywhere else. But that had already started to happen here, just with the amount of people that had no equity and just were in trouble.
Yeah, especially in places like the West Valley.
Yeah. Oh, right? Yeah.
What about all those rental properties that you'd acquired for all those other people? Because I knew a lot of people that had huge portfolios back then too, that like literally lost them all.
So interestingly enough, there were one of our best clients. He's still a client today, CPA from Northern California, and he came and I said, "Hey, we're gonna buy this house for you." He's like, "Okay, great. Here's 50% down." I was like, 50% down? He's like, "Yep." I said, you don't have to put 50% down. He's like, "That's what I do. I put 50% down because I'll never be in trouble on this property." And I'm like, trouble? Why would you be in trouble? Right? Well, I mean, great lesson learned from that guy, right? You talk about getting wise real fast. So we were fortunate. We only had one client that ended up losing he had multiple. He only lost one. We were very fortunate. Most of our guys either had the equity and were like, "Hey, I know that I'm maybe now at a break even, but I've got really good cash flow. So for me, it's like not a big deal. I'm just going to hold it until I pay it off. I'm not doing anything with it now." And even our guys that were underwater were getting okay rents or were making good enough money that they said, "I'm not jeopardizing these houses for $100 or $200 a month. I'm just going to pay it." Right. Eventually this is going to come back. I am paying off principal. I am getting to write off losses, and they kept them. So we were very, very fortunate that 95% or more of those people never did lose them. So that was really, really good. But we learned a lot of lessons. We learned about, now, I mean, I don't care. That's all we talk about is multiple exit strategies. Because if you don't have that in a property, it doesn't matter if it's your primary, an investment, whatever it is, vacation rental, you better think twice. I'm not comfortable in those scenarios where they want to do something that might be a little bit, equity skinny, or, hey, I don't have reserves, or whatever it is. I want to know that property is, well maintained if things, go sideways.
So you go that deep with your clients You'll get into their finances with them?
I don't need to look at their finances, but we just need to talk through the scenarios.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you're not going to put a lot of money down, hey, you're putting 10% down. What if the market loses 20%? Like, you can't sell that house unless you can make that deal whole with your own money.
Yeah.
And it's interesting now. So, as we get older now, our clientele has changed a lot too. They're old. I'm 55. They're 50 to 80.
Yeah.
Most of these people now have been through all of this, right? So they get it, and you don't have to talk to them as much about it. Hey, we're either gonna pay cash, or hey, we're gonna put so much money down it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But they're pretty. They've been through it.
So you have more of a savvy client.
Yeah.
All your business is relationships, anyways, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Do you guys do any marketing at all?
I mean, we market to our database.
Yeah. Okay.
Talk to our database, call our database, provide as much value as we can to the database.
You're a big Buffini
Yes.
CRM guy.
We've been in Buffini for over 15 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, and that's been huge for our career. Just the amount of agents we know in every major market in the U.S. I mean,
so you guys give each other business?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's probably been one of the best things that we've done. It never, for a lot of agents, if they just have what's happening in this market, it can handcuff you a bit.
Yeah.
But there's always something going on, either here or there, wherever that there is. So, during this last couple of years, between the investment properties that people in like Northern California, it's so reasonable here.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say, hey, our median home price is $410,000. Like, what?
Right.
I can't get a closet in San Ramon for $410,000, or
Right.
anywhere in the Bay Area or Silicon Valley. So that's good. There's a lot of churn in that. There's a lot of churn in, just the amount of people that have come here from the West Coast. And we give a lot of referrals out. It doesn't mean that people don't leave Phoenix, but
Right.
Wherever you're going, we've got somebody to help you that works like us,
Yeah.
relationally, that's going to put the time and effort into it. And so that's been really, really, advantageous for us. Yeah.
Do you think that your schooling at Thunderbird has helped you in this business in real estate?
Probably not as much as my contacts. I mean, I've had some really good contacts and done some really good business out of there.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say, hey, the X's and O's that I learned there are stuff that I would utilize every single day.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is about that life experience and how it prepared me to go to the Peace Corps and all those different things. So
Yeah.
I would say that maybe indirectly, that has helped a lot. It's helped me. It helps in problem solving, right? Where you get up to a problem where before I might be like, I don't know how I'm going to solve this. So I'm not going to try to solve it. Now it's like, what? There is a solution here. You've got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. That in that part of it. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think about just the education side of even like your role basically at North&Co at the Cromford or the Monday calls and that stuff, and you diving in the economics.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously, that may have stemmed from all that sort of world, or have you been into that into the economics since then, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've always, it's not like I'm like a crazy math person, but I really do like the numbers, and I like how so much of this business can be emotional.
Yeah.
Right. And people don't understand, like the Cromford numbers. I mean, you can look at any facet of the market and realize there is a current number, there's these leading and lagging indicators, and then there is this historical perspective. There is no other real estate market in the United States, period, that has this kind of data every single day, right? Buffini talks about, hey, you need to know all these, what's your average sales price? All these things, with days on market, inventory. I mean, agents have to comb through the MLS, do all that math by themselves. I mean, literally, I just click on a button and there it is.
Right.
I mean, they're really envious of us and how we, have that right at our fingertips. But I really like that because it can take the emotion out of, hey, should I or should I not be doing something right now?
Yeah.
Well, here's what we know. Here's historical perspective. Here's where we are, right? Here's what's happening in that macroeconomic environment that might affect us. But we can get pretty close. You're not going to make big mistakes. That's something that I wasn't working with or on back in the short sale days, or back when the market took a turn back for us in 2007. I didn't really start getting into Cromford until about 2010. And then from there, it's really like a roadmap for us.
Right.
Yeah.
So, may I interrupt?
Yeah.
I should know this, but I don't. Is Cromford just based here?
Yes, he only analyzes our market.
I did not realize that. Okay.
So he actually lives in England. Michael Orr lives in England.
Yeah,
I
knew that.
He lived here.
But okay.
Wasn't he an ASU guy or something?
He did a lot of stuff at ASU.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, he was affiliated down there. But Tina Tamboer is just phenomenal. I mean, she is worth her weight in gold. That woman is
She
just
does a lot of research.
tremendous.
We host her once a month.
You should. We
were at 783 attendees in January. It's on Zoom.
Yeah.
It's virtual.
Yeah.
But we had to up our Zoom account from like 150, we jumped to 300, and we were literally like starting to let people in, and we maxed out, and the person who manages it for us on our end, she's like, call IT. Like, we literally upgraded while we were letting people in the Zoom. So it's obviously everybody is starving for data right now.
Yeah.
And people who maybe didn't appreciate it a couple years ago now are scrambling. And, we try to provide as much educational value to our realtors as possible. Like, we're leaders in informed lending, right? That's our tagline. So, Cromford's been huge for us.
They do.
Tina's amazing.
Great job.
So if anybody wants to actually get on that Zoom, reach out to us.
Go to our link tree, and the registration links are in our bio.
And Liz Dysert Clevin, Liz Clevin. She got married. She does an incredible job, which you've seen like the recap of it. Because, that's just the recap, and that is like a lot of information. So that's obviously open to anybody who would like to see that as well, so they can understand it. And from a Cliff Notes version, even though it's fairly long.
Yeah. We have one tomorrow.
That's right. One tomorrow.
First Thursday of every, not that this will drop. The first Thursday of every month, come hell or high water. We post that at 10 a.m.
So what led you to North&Co? Before you answer that, it's not a big brand on the Northwest Valley.
Is it? No, it isn't.
It's not.
No. So we were at Realty Executives, and because we work by referral, we have clients everywhere, and we started to do some short sales. And Realty Executives was just not happy about that. The liability initially on the brokerages, I think they believed to be high, and weren't excited about it. But we kind of were like, well, this is the business we're getting, right? And so one day Amy and I were looking at stuff, and she said, look, let's draw a map of what's been going on. And we could just see like these. It started on the outskirts and just started to have this like concentric circle of collapse, right? Mm-hmm. And so basically we got to the point where we were doing so many that they just really were uncomfortable with it. So I knew two guys that worked at Done Deal Solutions, which kind of morphed into Green Street Real Estate with Derrick and Brian. And they ended up being negotiators on our short sales.
Okay.
So they were I think there was kind of a mutual courting going on, like, hey, you guys are doing so much of this short sale business. Realty Executives isn't super happy about it. Why don't you come on board with us? We've got a brokerage, and we'll handle all of it for you. So we did.
Okay.
And so we did that. I was kind of managing the office, running the sales team. We had a little call center there trying to get as much business as we could. Derrick was kind of working behind the scenes, putting together, his different development deals and trying to find agents that were in the brokerage that were more geared toward what he wanted. And as the short sale market diminished, there came a point where I was like, all right, I'm not being effective at what I'm doing here. I'd been producing a little bit, but got back into full production. Derrick said, hey, I've got the guys that I need. I'm going to kind of peel this off. And then basically Brian stepped in and said, hey, I'll do this, right? So let's run this, right? So we got Stephanie Gonzalez from Realty Executives, who we love, who she and I used to teach classes together, and I knew she would be a phenomenal addition, right? So so she and Brian really, from that point, ran with it. We moved from 32nd Street in Camelback to 40th Street in Camelback. At that point, we were there not too much longer, and Brian said, hey, time out. We got to change the name. There's too much confusion in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Right? There was, right?
Yeah.
There was a Green Street commercial, which was not affiliated with us. There was Green Street Development, which was Derrick's company, right? And then it was us, Green Street. So it was too confusing. So it was just like, well, Brian had then really had made inroads into Arcadia.
Yeah.
And so said, hey, my brand is pretty big here, right?
Yeah.
So boom, went to North&Co, and I'm like, great, whatever. I didn't, it wasn't my big thing. Our clients are a little bit, the brand thing for our clients is not as big as it is for other people that are in that Central Phoenix, Arcadia area.
Right.
They'd known us we went from West USA to Arizona Signature Properties to Realty Executives. And so just us was what they were following, not that. But that's not always the case, right? So for us, it wasn't that we did or didn't have a presence anywhere in the Valley. We loved the people, the leadership, the opportunities that were there, that we had taken it from. Gosh, I think when Brian took it over, I don't know exactly, but we were down to like 20 agents. I mean, it was dying fast, right? So, and they just, built it from there. So
I don't really think that it matters nowadays because there's so many brands, even though North&Co is one of the best brands out there. But if you're not familiar with it because it's not a huge brand like it is in like you said, North Central and Arcadia. Yeah. But you still have so many brands now. So if you're driving by a house, if you're looking for, it's not going to deter you or attract you if it says Sotheby's or if it says HomeSmart or it says North&Co or it says Berkshire Hathaway.
I totally agree. And
maybe at one point it did. Keller Williams or something.
Yeah. I would say back in our childhood days, right? Century 21, the gold jacket was everything, right?
Yeah.
And Russ Lyon was a big deal in the luxury space back in our childhood. But you bring up a really good point, John, when it comes to somebody who's established. You've been doing this 20 some years, right?
Yeah, 21 years.
So, and obviously you've done a great job maintaining your client base. They don't care where you are, right? And as much as you may not see it as brand, but you do have a brand, right? Yeah. And I think that it's a controversial subject. I never want to disrespect the broker owners we work with, but it is about the agent and creating their own business, right? Sure. So the fact that you are at North&Co is awesome, right? We love North&Co. The culture and their history and all that with Brian is phenomenal. But God forbid you went somewhere else. It's not like all of a sudden you lose everybody.
I disagree with that somewhat. I'd say maybe in the suburbs and the outskirts of town, but I think it does matter in the big areas where a Launch and North&Co and Retzi,
I don't disagree with that.
You're not going to be with the Century 21 typically if you're going to be that's what I'm going to choose if I'm working Arcadia proper, right?
100%.
You're not. Where we live, you could probably be wherever. But the question would be though, is the sophistication of the buyers out, say in Norterra or say out in Chandler, if they are unfamiliar with a brand, was it the same sort of mindset? Well, I don't even know what that is, so I'm going to go with this company because I know it's Keller Williams because it's just huge. Would you know the answer to that? I mean, it does affect you probably, but I wonder if it would to anybody else.
I have a thought on that.
Go ahead.
Let John just listen to us talk.
This is great. I love it.
So in places like in Verrado, right, we had Verrado Realty, so that was a no-brainer. But everybody else, I think, it didn't matter.
But those were big name brands.
Not all of them. There were some randoms out there that weren't. But
I don't know the answer. I'm just asking. It's a hard-hitting question, John.
Wait.
I do have it. So let me finish my thought. Okay. I think that nowadays everybody knows 100 realtors, right? So I don't think people make decisions on who they're going to hire in accordance with brand anymore. I think that they have enough people in their friend group or that second degree association that are agents. Yeah. And I think that's how people hire now.
I think there's a I think there's truth in all of this.
Yeah.
I think you're going to find some people that might want a brand. You're going to want some people that want the person. I think that our clients understand that if we're at a brokerage, they must be making me better.
Yeah.
So that trickles down to, I'm going to take care of them. Zig Ziglar used to say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. And so that part of it for us is really big. And they know, okay, they'll ask me occasionally, like, people, they'll see, the Angelo group, and then they see North&Co, and they're, we take it for granted, right? Oh, we understand how this structure works.
Right, the team. With
right?
But
they don't know that, right? So they have to ask me, are you your own broker? And I'm like, no, North&Co is, and this is how it works. Oh, I've seen that, but whatever.
Yeah.
That is not that has never been a deterrent for our clients.
How long have you lived in Sonoran Foothills? That's where you live, right?
Coming up on, it'll be 20 years, and by the end of this year,
okay.
20 years, yeah.
Didn't you live up there?
So, no.
No, okay.
I lived in Stetson Valley, but I mean, we're very close.
Well, yeah.
Norterra is basically connected to Sonoran Foothills.
Yeah.
So, does everybody in your neighborhood know what you do?
No, nobody does.
That's what I was wondering.
The guy across the street does.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Right. So you just don't even that's not like your market at all. You're not. It's just like you just.
It's no. We've never marketed like that. I take that back. When we first moved up there, we marketed to Tremonto and to our neighborhood, which is Amber Hills. And interestingly enough, we lived in Amber Hills and barely got any business out of there at all. Ended up getting a ton of business out of Tremonto. I don't know what that whole thing was like. And so, as the rest of our business matured and we got away from that traditional farming, if you will, we just never went back to it and just stuck with, hey, we know that this works, and you just stick to it.
We were in that North&Co mastermind, was it last week, where the girl was talking about Eastmark?
Yeah.
And
it's
her
another D&B property.
Yeah. Well, she apparently that's a big. I've never been there, but apparently it's a really well-established, great.
It's awesome.
The community
property,
is incredible, and they've got the HOA that runs a bunch of events and yada yada yada. So her whole thing was like, this is what I do, right? I just market to my community, and I make friends, and I do all that sort of stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking about that while she's talking, going like, I know somebody else, Shelly Sakala does it really well in Norterra.
Yeah.
But I wonder how many people just don't do that, or just don't want to swim in the pond in their own neighborhood.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't do it either for the mortgage side. Like there's other lenders in my neighborhood that I'm friends with. I don't even think that one person on my street even knows that I do mortgages at all. It is kind of like even sometimes not wanting to do deals for your friends, because it's like, I also don't want to do it with my next door neighbor, because you got to deal with all the, sometimes everything's not perfect, right?
I'll tell you, it was brutal, because I lived a mile from my office. My kids walked across the park. Verrado was like a bubble for us, and it was tough. I mean, the kids used to resent it. Like, we can't go to dinner without you running into a client and feeling like you have to, you couldn't just give them a quick wave. You'd have to go over, and then you'd buy them a drink, and then they'd invite you to sit down. And it is hard.
Another thing that's interesting too is that we've lived there for it'll be 20 years. And community is so different in different places. We have some people that we know really well in the community, but it's not like our street. It's just so weird how there's no continuity there. Yeah, community.
We don't either.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, and that's where it's so. We have all these other communities that we're plugged into, but not the geographical one where we live.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just.
I'm so envious of the people that are best friends with all their neighbors, like the next door neighbors and across the street, and they all hang out, and it's like
it's
you can
awesome.
You can come outside and do cool stuff. It used to be that way when we lived in West Wing. But literally now it's like you drive in, shut the garage, because I'm scared to talk to any of my neighbors.
The guy that lives across the street from us, I am not kidding you. It is the proverbial, he will come down the street. He's a single guy, lives in a 3,300 square foot house. I don't know what he's doing in there, but he comes down the street. Literally, I watch his garage door go up. He pulls in, and I can watch. I see the door open and his feet swinging out, and that door is coming down. Doesn't want to talk. Doesn't want to say. I haven't said. I mean, he's probably lived there for 10, 12 years. I've probably had 3 conversations with him. Just the guy does not want any part of me, us, anybody.
So fun.
Yeah, I know. I tried to explain that to him when he first moved in. I did the whole neighborly thing.
Wine.
Whatever. Yeah, I drink wine, right? But that was the last real lengthy conversation we ever had.
So when you're, sorry, Ryan, my apologies. When you are selling real estate in communities like a DC Ranch or even a Verrado or Eastmark, right? These master plan communities, do you find yourself selling lifestyle as much as the actual physical?
Absolutely. We right now we've got a couple deals. One for sure, and a second one kind of coming out at Trilogy in like Rio Verde. Like it's like those people are more excited about being there and all the stuff that goes on there. And same with Verrado. Like I mean, it's Vistancia. It's all this. I mean, like it's Anthem. It's like there's a certain style of person that wants something like that, and they love that. I can get on the golf course. I can literally walk out of my house and go hiking. You know, that stuff for absolutely, for sure.
One of my last questions. What's it like working with your wife and living in the same house?
For us, it's phenomenal. And it's I would say that half the time, like I get up and go. Like I'm out the door at 5:35 and then I work out. And then by the time I'm coming back, she's already taken the kids to school. So I don't even see her, till 9:30 in the morning. And if I'm gone, I saw her for about 2 minutes as I was getting out the door. Had a quick lunch, came back. She was getting out the door, and I won't even see her.
You just pass each other.
Like today is one of the. She's actually taking our youngest to the Suns game tonight, so I might not see her till tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning.
Right.
I don't even know. Like I don't know. Maybe I will. I'll be in bed by the time. By the time the game starts, I'll probably be in bed at 8:00. So that part of it, there's some of that where people I think have a perception of we're together all the time. But she's my best friend. Like we could be together all day. We don't get. It's kind of goofy sometimes. Like we don't get on each other's nerves. She's the person that I like. There's really not anything about her that bothers me. Wow. Like we can just spend hours and hours and hours together, and if we're together or if we're not, it doesn't really matter. We're very we're very, very similar people, and that's the part about it that it's not like
your same interests, you like the same things,
all the same,
compatible in all different ways.
She, I picked the right. You don't know this when you go, but she loves cars. She loves sports. She loves just hanging out. Like I'm by nature a homebody.
Yeah.
I'm a gregarious guy. I love to go out. But I love being at home. I love my house. I love being there. She does too. It's like, how this business is. You're out driving all day, running. Like yesterday, I spent 2.5 hours in my car on the Buckeye thing. Coming on I was so upset. Well, I just wanted to be home. I didn't want to be anywhere else, Yeah. We just get along really, really well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think there's some, like you said, some people may think that you're working and spending so much time with no matter who it is, even if it is just your best friend, it can get rough. But you guys do manage your lives separately somewhat. So
sure.
It's like you go on every listing appointment together.
Right,
you don't go to everything together.
Right.
You're all. I barely see you guys together except for the meetings.
Brokerage,
the brokerage meeting. So
yeah.
That's awesome, though. So everybody else out there that doesn't have that great of a relationship, haha.
It is possible.
I can, I can say that it's also, but I'm really thankful that she's in there because in the business we're doing this together because, she understands. Hey, I got to take this phone call. Yeah. There's no resentment like, right. We're, and vice versa. Or she'll be like, hey, this meeting ran over. Like, can you start getting dinner? Probably, right, I get it. There's no like, that part of it, there's so much understanding that goes into it, that it's never like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you stayed and worked later, or you did this or none of that. I think it would be hard to have a spouse in this business. I mean, I see it in people sometimes, right? Where it can take its toll.
Yeah,
for sure. It's a consuming career.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about, Trish, before we
I do.
wrap?
You last night you said something that I wrote down verbatim. Our profession is lead generation and our job is real estate.
Yes.
Did you coin that, or is that somebody else's and you just
Buffini.
Yeah, I think it probably is a Buffini thing. I may have maybe put that in my own words, but that idea for sure. If you didn't say it exactly like that, it's from that structure for sure.
I think it's people need to get their brain wrapped around that. It's a whole different way of looking at real estate. Right?
Real estate's one of the this business is so interesting because it's hard to leverage, harder to leverage, and we wear all the hats. I feel like if agents would figure out, are they going to wear a CEO hat, a COO hat, CFO hat? What is that? Agents are wearing all those hats. Mm-hmm. So they will default to the input or the stimulus that's in front of them, right? So if I know that I should make so many phone calls a day and I don't have the discipline to carve out that time or to let everything else be going on around me, and then I'm changing to that COO role where I'm putting out fires, I'm doing customer service, I'm working on a contract, I'm working on a repair, Binzer, whatever it is, that will consume you, right? And I think some agents are better at that. Some agents are better at lead generation. So that's one of the great things about teams, because I think now you're starting to see some separation of ability and what you like to do in the business. Right. So it's great. I am more of a lead generator, right? I mean, do I work with buyers and so? Yes, I do. But Amy handles a lot of that, right? She is a lead generator, but doesn't do it as much.
Yeah.
And I can say, hey, I'm going to stick to the lead generation today. You handle all these other fires. Deanna's been our admin for 15 years. She's phenomenal. They handle all of that. Then when all the fires are down, we all kind of go back to lead generation. Everybody needs a lead generate, right? Because it keeps you sharp. Right, yeah. It keeps you in that conversation.
By lead generate, you just mean just minding your database.
Yeah. As Buffini would say, calls, notes, and pop buys. It doesn't matter. Just picking up the phone, seeing, having coffee with people, having a lunch with people. Yeah. Doing this kind of stuff. You need to be out. We always say you got to get out in the stream. You got to get out. Yeah. This business will keep you isolated if you do not break out of that. And so that lead generation for me is the thing that cracks the egg. Like they always say, if an egg cracks from the outside, whatever is in it dies. But if you crack an egg from the inside, awesome things are going to happen, right? So I crack that egg every day, right? You're the baby chick bursting out of there, right? And so for me, that part of it is that's the momentum that gets me through the day.
Well, shit, I'm going to end on that.
Okay.
I hope you guys, we're going to have to write that down after we have it on film.
That's it.
So we don't need to. That was good. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Again, John Angelo really with the Angelo Group with his wife, Amy Angelo. Yeah. And they are with North&Co. Thanks again to Trey and Trisha. Appreciate your help. Fantastic. And she does a lot of the back end.
She does, I know.
And
she makes it.
She's been more vocal lately too, as chiming in as right, Trey? Yeah.
Well, it's the guests we've had on have been people I've been connected to.
Yeah.
Right. When she knows them really well, she gets into it, which is great. It makes it really good.
You're like the Howard Stern. She's like Robin.
She's Robin.
I'm Robin.
Hey.
Robin, or I'm Jamie.
Trey, I don't want to give you
Fred.
I don't know.
Fred's
Beetlejuice. No. Oh my gosh,
he's cooler than all of us.
He is.
All right, well, thank you again. Appreciate it. Everybody out there, again, please go to our social media platforms. Everybody go to our YouTube, like and subscribe. And there's also a little bell you can hit to remind you of new episodes that we release. But yeah, we want to grow this, please. So we need your help. Appreciate it. See you next time.